When it comes to names, Volkswagen has some pretty good ones. Take the Golf, for example, their most popular hatchback. Golf, the sport of CEOs, is very impressive. And then we have the Tuareg, a noble tribe of Saharan nomads, perfect for rugged conditions. And then we have the Tiguan, which is a portmanteau, or the smashing together of the words tiger and iguana. I can't explain that one, but what I can explain is pretty much everything else about this, the third generation Volkswagen Tiguan. So let's hop in and I'll show you around.
Before we jump in though, let's quickly go over the range. The 2025 Tiguan might be pretty much all new, but the pricing isn't too far removed from the last gen model. And in a time of increased cost of living, that's definitely a good thing. At the bottom end, we have the Tiguan 110 TSI Life. It retails for $44,990, which is a bit above the norm for a medium SUV starting price, but it's specified to a level roughly equivalent with a mid-spec Japanese or Korean rival. You can get the 110 TSI in elegance flavor as well, which for $56,990 brings you heated and cooled power adjustable front seats with a massage function, a heated steering wheel, leather upholstery, and better LED headlamps. However, it's the two 150 TSI models in elegance and R-Line trim that Volkswagen reckons will be the most popular in the country. For $55,990 for the Tiguan 150 TSI R-Line or $66,990 for the 150 TSI Elegance, the engine grows to a 2-litre turbo petrol with 150 kilowatts of power and 320 Nm of torque, which is actually less than the powertrain this model replaces, the old 162 TSI. But to balance that out, the 150 TSI also comes down in price by about $4,000, as well as gaining some equipment that the 162 TSI never had. The 150s also get Volkswagen's adaptive DCC Pro suspension to improve handling, while all-wheel drive becomes standard too. Want more power though? At the top of the range, for now at least, is the Tiguan 195 TSI R-Line with a stout 195 kilowatts and 400 Nm from a boosted up version of the 2-litre turbo for $70,490. Okay, now let's hop inside.
Okay, here we are, and this is quite an impressive interior. Let's start off with what you get. This is a mid-spec model. This is the 150 TSI Elegance. It's one of the grades that Volkswagen Australia expects to be one of the most popular in this country, and you can kind of understand why just with the amount of stuff that you get. Take, for example, this screen. The infotainment screen in this spec is a massive 15-incher, and next to it is a smaller DigiDash. Every model gets a DigiDash, every model gets a screen. It's just the base model has a slightly smaller 12.9-inch screen, and it dominates the cabin. It looks really premium, high-end, and that's kind of the point. They're chasing a Tuareg aesthetic for this car, and you can definitely tell in the amount of stuff they've put in it, but also in the architecture of this cabin. It really does look plush, like a fancy hotel. I do think though, maybe this is a little bit of a low light, this panel here in front of the passenger. Surely you could have put another screen there. I'm joking, of course. This is more than enough screen for anybody. But there are other aspects of this cabin that are genuinely impressive. It's not just throwing electronics at the dash and hoping people are wowed by that. For me, I think one of the highlights is actually this little shelf down here. Pretty innocuous little hinged lid, or is it? It's actually a shelf that sits above the wireless phone chargers, and yes, that's chargers plural. There are two side by side here, both with active cooling as well, so you know your phone doesn't overheat. But this is also genuinely useful. You can throw your keys or your wallet up there. You're not going to scratch your phone screen. Pretty handy stuff. Also handy are physical buttons. Volkswagen has done us the favor of moving away from the haptic controls that it was trying to make popular before. Now they've moved back. Some might call it regression. I think it's just acknowledgement that buttons are superior in certain circumstances. So there's buttons galore across the face of the steering wheel, which is nice. There are still some capacitive buttons like the volume and temperature sliders below the screen, as well as the actual top of this, which is a physical volume knob. Or is it? Press it and it turns into your drive mode selector. That's pretty nifty. And you can slide across and then you change whatever this is, which is atmospheres. I don't quite get it. It just kind of changes the lighting of the car, but look, I think that does move the meter for some people. You do want to have some customization of your interior, and this allows you to do exactly that. There's also further decluttering going on by moving the transmission selector up to the stalk. It's just to the right of the steering wheel. You can't see it right now. You also have shift paddles behind the steering wheel as well, should you want to change your gears yourself. But as you'll find out, the car does a pretty good job of doing that themselves. So another really impressive part of this whole interior is here, the center console. And I know it feels strange to be enthusiastic about things like bits of plastic like that, but that's part of a cup holder. You can reconfigure that however you want. It slots into these little things. You can make a cup holder that size, or you can make a cup holder that size for, say, I don't know, you've got like a box of chicken nuggets that you want to have down there and eat on the go, or you can remove it entirely and you have this pretty wide space, or you can reach back here and pull this guy out and slot that in if you want more rugged cup holders. And this guy can go back here. It's quite versatile, and I do appreciate it when car makers put that kind of thought into crafting an interior that is usable. That was definitely one of the priorities when it came to designing the new Tiguan for Volkswagen. They weren't just trying to ape the design, the aesthetic of the Touareg. I mean, they reference the Touareg so many times in the press material, but they've done that, but they've also given us an interior which is actually quite helpful in terms of the usability, the functionality, all those things that just make a difference when you're just sitting in this thing going through traffic. Let's have a look at the back seat. There's a lot of stuff, just like the front of the cabin, a lot of quality of life features here that I think are probably going to go unnoticed by most people, but really do deserve to be pointed out. Things like little mobile phone pocket right here. Oh, also you can double park phones. For some reason there's 2 phone pockets on the back of each seat. Pretty handy. We also have controls for the tri-zone climate control, which is standard on all Tiguans, which is fairly impressive. It's I don't think there is another car in the segment that has tri-zone climate control as standard for every model. Also, sliding seat. So if you want a little bit more cargo space behind you, and you're willing to give up a little bit of legroom, like look how far forward that gets. That's fairly impressive. But also you can further play with the seat configuration, and there's a little bit of recline there. That's as far back as it goes. Pretty comfortable recline, although my legs are running out of blood, so we'll do that. Or you can adopt a more upright posture if you really do want to prioritize cargo space, which is pretty great. Gives a little bit more versatility to an SUV, which is sort of, you know, technically a medium SUV, but I think some people might sit in it and think, oh, this is kind of narrow, but it makes great use of the space that it has. And I think that is more important than what size category it belongs to. Also important, cup holders for your back seaters. And I've never seen as complex a cup holder in the back seat as that thing. Well, in this class anyway. Luxury cars, you know, you see some pretty wild cup holders, but this is actually pretty good, and also extends the sort of usable area as well, just by projecting forward so far. But that's that, and I think that's it for the back seat. I'm really comfortable back here. I think I'd be comfortable here for a pretty long journey too. Good job, Volkswagen. Not bad.
All right. Yeah, that thing sing. It's actually, this isn't really as hot as a Tiguan gets. It's quite the opposite, actually. This is a 110 TSI, so 110 kilowatts of power from a 1.4 litre turbo inline petrol 4. So we're not talking about the spiciest engine around. It's certainly pretty far removed from the 195 kilowatt flagship model, or at least it's going to be the flagship until a Tiguan R eventuates. Watch out for that one. But here at the entry level of the Tiguan powertrain family tree, so far, so good. It feels fine. 110 kilowatts of power, I believe 250 newton meters of torque. It's not exactly overburdened with either power or torque, but it does feel reasonably lively. I think some of that probably goes to the 7-speed dual clutch transmission, which is wet clutch transmission style. Volkswagen, hearing them talk about it, they attribute a lot of the improvement and drivability of this car to that transmission, which makes sense because the 1.4 litre that's in this car is largely a carryover engine. It's not the most advanced Volkswagen engine around, but with the application of the new transmission, it definitely gives it a little bit more sparkle. But in terms of the rest of the underpinnings, we've got multi-link rear end and McPherson strut suspension up front. And right now, feels pretty comfortable. We don't have the fancy adaptive dampers, the DCC Pro, whatever it's called, that you do get in the R-Line variants. But this is fine, to be honest. The suspension's pretty good. It does feel a little bit, maybe a little bit firm-ish. I think some of that might be down to the wheel and tire package. It's on 19-inch alloys here. That's the smallest the wheels go, so you can't pick a sort of taller sidewall for the 110 Elegance. That's kind of as chunky as the rubber gets. But to be honest, it works fine. There is a little bit of noise. You do feel a little bit of the road noise coming through that suspension, but it's very clear that this is pitched at more of a sporty buyer. And hearing Volkswagen talk about who the intended buyer is, the people who have bought Tiguans in the past have been people who have been motivated by things like dynamics and performance, and so that has sort of fed into how this car feels as well. And you can kind of get a sense of that, but it doesn't mean it's too sharp. Like it's too sharp to enjoy during day-to-day driving, but it's definitely all right on a little twisty country road like this. Steering's good too. Like it's not artificially heavy, which is one of my pet peeves. Easily flows from corner to corner without too much weight getting in your way, but it also doesn't feel too lifeless and overly assisted, which is another of my pet peeves. It's right in the middle. It's a sort of a Goldilocks car, this one. Okay, so if you were questioning whether the base model, or at least the 110 TSI engine, would be sufficient for your purposes, well, I can confidently say more than enough. More than enough for the typical person. This thing has a level of performance that will satisfy. It will certainly get you around town with no problem whatsoever. However, I do know, because I've driven the other ones, that you will have maybe just a smidge more fun in the 150. And if you really want to go crazy, there's the 195. I think go for that one if you're a real power freak. But maybe if it were me, I would just hold my money in my pocket until a Tiguan R eventuates, and just wait for that one. If I really want a truly spicy Tiguan, that's what I would go for. Something that is a little bit more tiger than Iguana. But this one, the Iguana, is totally fine. I actually really like it. I don't think it's bad buying at all. And for around 50 grand retail, I think that actually hits a good point in the market. And it just, it still seems a little bit weird to be talking about transacting 50k for a midsize SUV. But, that's the world we inhabit these days. And it seems that the market, at least the Australian one, isn't completely allergic to midsize SUVs with that kind of price tag. So I think this occupies a pretty good part of the market. And if it were my money and I was just looking for a runabout SUV, this ticks a lot of boxes. And not so much just because, it's drivable and it feels good out on a road like this, but more so the practicality considerations, the design of it. I really do appreciate things like the sort of dual layer center console here with the charging pads, the shelf above that. Like, it's just the small things that really do add up. You've got the highly useful and reconfigurable cup holder center console box section. You've got sliding rear seats. We've got a really decent, deep and tall boot space as well. All of those things really contribute to this being a good, versatile, all-round car. And I think when you're operating in that, or you're searching for a car in that sort of mid-size family SUV space, versatility matters way more than pretty much any other metric except maybe price. But even in terms of price, I think this is about right. It is sort of at a sort of more premium end of the mainstream segment, sure, but I think you are getting what you pay for. Certainly looking at screens and the feel of the leather, the feel of the upholstery, just you've got upholstered surfaces galore, even on the lower reaches of the dashboard, center console, locked door bins and all that sort of stuff that makes you feel good. There's a lot to recommend this car. And to be honest, I think if you are looking for a midsize SUV, put this on your shortlist. Even if 50K is sort of testing your budget a little bit, still put it on, go for a test drive, see how it is, see if you are willing to stretch the budget just a smidge, because I think it could be worth your while. This is actually a pretty nicely executed sort of mainstream premium SUV. Thanks for watching.